Hi, and welcome to another GC9x video. I'm KaL, and today with me are Bob and Ada.
Hello.
And our good friend who's currently trapped inside a dishwasher, Muteki.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, his mic is broken, but we couldn't wait to show you this exciting arcade game from 1995?
96, I believe.
Because there was some confusion about the release of this game.
It wasn't a very thorough rollout. There were some places that probably got it a little bit earlier than others. Arcade game releases are never as uniform as they are for consoles, since they're always going to, very specialized locations. And in the US, like we mentioned right before we started recording, you can find a few arcade places that have this game, but they were like a few handful of specifically Sega-owned or operated arcades throughout the country. And even then, there weren't very many.
Go ahead.
Okay, Bob, you were saying?
Basically, what happened is that some guy who was programming Fighting Vipers put a Sonic model in the game. Somebody saw it and said, "Hey, we can make a game out of this." And so they did.
And it's called Sonic the Fighters, because you've already seen that, but I'm gonna say it. It's also called Sonic Championships in somewhere, maybe.
So I think this is the first time Sonic's been a 3D model. But I'm not picking him, I'm picking Fang, or Knack. Because we didn't really get to see him much during Triple Trouble, and this is my way of making up for that.
He's also by far the best character in the game, as far as I remember.
This is the one Sonic game that I have the least experience with playing, at least among stuff that's feasible to emulate. I've tried getting the Model 2 emulators running, and I've just had so much trouble. That, and I'm not super into fighting games in general.
Basically, it uses Virtual Fighter controls. You got punch, kick, and guard.
And
move lists are kind of simple.
Yeah, and you can see, the environment design is very Virtual Fighter styled, with less of an issue of ring out, but, standard sort of checkerboard design going on with the ground there. Very much in the vein of...
You'll notice that Knuckles isn't fighting back very much, but that'll change as we get
Yeah,
forward.
this is just the first round, which is almost sort of a throwaway, get used to the control sort of thing. I have, I think, tried a little bit of this and remember it getting very difficult very quickly. Because I think the most successful opportunity I had playing this was through Sonic Gems Collection, I think the GameCube or PS2 version. Probably GameCube.
Which is the most simple, and the first time that this game was available to most people was on the Gems Collection.
Yeah. I remember at the time, magazines were announcing the existence of this game, and pointing out how you play as all the characters and things like that. The people thought that this was going to be coming to the Saturn at some point, but it never did.
And, I'm really amazed it didn't. It's 3D fighting games in Sonic. That's all people knew Sega for back then.
It probably would have done pretty well.
It's a pretty decent fighting game. I've got to mention right now, we have a character whose name is Amy, but she is Rosie, and she also has a hammer, which is very complicated. Bob, would you like to explain the blocking mechanic in this? Because somebody's got mail.
I will after Muteki checks his mail. Okay, that said, the way this works is that you can block, which brings a little shield in front of you, but some attacks can break it. You lose one of your little shield icons. And if you run out of those, like what just happened there, you can't block for the rest of the match.
And the rest of the match is the rest of the match, not the rest of that singular fight, the round.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
not
they haven't
the
restored.
round
I didn't
match.
notice that until now.
The problem with Knack, though, is that he doesn't really have many moves that can break your guard.
The advantage
Like
of Knack
Sonic
is
is
he has
easy,
the projectile weapon.
Right, I think Knack is one of two characters who gets projectiles.
Yeah,
The other being Dean or Dynamite Duck.
from of course the classic arcade Master System game Dynamite Ducks. The only brawling video game to feature a cameo by Colonel Sanders, as I understand it.
No, there's Trio the Punch.
Oh, right. And Bark the Polar Bear, the original character for this game.
basically one of those characters who ended up being sent straight to comic limbo right after this.
Yeah. Technically,
What I like about Bean here, I was gonna say Bach, not Bean, is we say original character, but he is actually, like, original. He's not an XP for any of the other Sonic cast. He's a completely unique guy.
Yeah, he also doesn't feel like an obvious redesign of one of the other characters. I mean, that's sort of what you mean, but, like, in the way that, you know, Shadow, oh, it's another Hedgehog. Silver, oh, it's another Hedgehog. You know, he's rather unique in his design.
Yeah, he's just like a cool polar bear guy.
Yep.
Which makes Big the Cat kind of an interesting inclusion, because they could have probably just used Bark instead, and just, you know,
an ice fishing
made
polar
him
bear
like
with
fishing,
a frog
'cause I'm
buddy.
sure polar bears... Right? Like, that would make as much
Ice fishing
sense.
polar bear grapples.
Some bears fish.
Even better.
Yeah. But, no, like, Bark is the, heavy of the game, which is why
He's a grappler, basically.
The main reason he's not a redesign of someone else is they needed a sort of bigger muscle character, which, up until this point, I guess Knuckles had been that, and that's not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles play pretty similarly. I think they have like a couple of unique moves between them, but that's about it. Like, they can all spin dash, so...
But only them. The rest of the cast has different moves. Like, Amy has her hammer, Bach punches things, Knack shoots things.
Also, yeah, you can do a wall attack.
Yeah, he throws the explosives. One thing that's interesting is that one of the Fighting Viper characters, Honey, has sort of a preliminary furrified design that I assume they were going to put into this game, but either ran out of time or decided against doing. Which is a little bit of a shame, because that would have been sort of fun. Another one of the characters that has probably made a few cameos in the comics, as I recall, but...
But you can play as Honey in the PS3 re-release.
Oh, okay.
Yes, not in the Gems collection, but she actually finally makes her appearance. Is she a clone of a different character, though, like Amy?
I'm not sure. I don't have that
Yeah,
re-release.
I've never...
Or is she a scaled-down fighting version of her own Fighting Viper character? I can't remember. I actually have that version, but I've forgotten.
So this is actually where the game starts to get kind of difficult, because Bart can do a lot of damage with a singular hit. You'll see he likes to throw a lot, too.
He's also not very slow, considering how
say-
much of a heavy hitter he's supposed to be.
The AI kind of just feels completely ridiculously hard. It doesn't really matter who you get thrown up against.
Fighting
further you
games
get
in
into
the
this game,
90s.
the more absurdly hard. Yes.
It gets worse than this,
Oh,
trust
yeah.
me.
The real trick with this one is that because of the way the block system works, you either do damage or you do no damage. Which, there's no chip damage in this. If you have a barrier, you will take no damage. Which can make it extremely hard to whittle down the AI, who will just block every attack that can be blocked, but will immediately prevent itself from blocking the barrier breaking attacks.
You'll see he's doing that right now every time I try to shoot him.
Yeah, if you can block the shield attacks, that's probably your best bet then. Or use the shield breaking attacks, I mean.
And the Chaotix character shows up. I think Espio's the only one in here, right?
Yep,
Other
just
than
Espio.
Knuckles himself, obviously.
Oh, that was
that's
good.
Stick throw.
That was
I
a
love
good
doing
grab.
that.
All the grabs in this are
characters are, like,
really
special.
nice.
Yeah, see, he took out like 2 of my shields that one spin dash.
I think that's his special thing, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
It is an interesting graphic, because that's his spin dash from Chaotix. As you could have seen if you watched our Chaotix video.
Oh, yes.
I'm pretty
You
sure.
should.
Yeah. It was Muteki covered the entire of Chaotix in its entirety. And I do mean entirety, because you went back and recorded a whole heap of the game.
Yeah, I think in order to get, like, the special stages, was it?
And he just shot me in the face with my own gun. Thank you, Espio.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this, is the amount of interaction between the characters has been custom fitted. That's true of Virtual Fighter isn't it? They have like these extra little gimmick touches. So what that means is that this is very unique for a 3D fighting game to have that level of interaction between the characters.
Speed, speed, speed.
They don't really explain whose boat that is. It's just somebody's boat.
Yeah,
We gotta
it's just
assume
there.
it's Sonic because it's blue and says speed. But
Sonic stage is even weirder.
It's a weird looking boat.
You think it'd be the level Knuckles has, but it isn't.
this is a boat that someone stole from Dynamite Kong. There's just no
Yeah,
where else
right.
this
This
boat fits
is
in.
this is very, very much an AM2 game, as you can tell from this boat. Like, it looks like something you'd see maybe on the side of the screen as you're going through a course in virtual racing, maybe. Or
And I guess
Yeah.
speaking of that sort of thing, you guys are gonna have trouble hearing it because of us talking and the fighting sounds and other noises, but this game has a very nice soundtrack, a classic Sega AM2 music.
I'm not too fond of the soundtrack, to be honestly.
It's because you're a hater,
I think it's
though.
kind of one of the weaker parts of the game.
I kind of like it, but it sort of depends on like how much like super upbeat techno appeals to you or not, because that's basically what everything in this game is.
Because I don't think anyone ever said, you know what's great about Virtua Fighter? The music.
This game, I think, has, because it's got, like, the infused upper, energetic Sonic sort of music to it. It's not just, generic fighting music.
I mean, I happen
You guys...
I think they could have been...
I happen to be a fan of the music that plays in SBO's stage in particular.
You think they could just remix the music from the earlier games? That could have worked.
Well, if
Well,
they
a lot of these stages aren't, strictly speaking, from the earlier games. There's not really, like, other than Mushroom Hill, which is definitely Mushroom Hill, or whatever they called it, most of these stages aren't from a Sonic game.
I mean, if they redid this now, they'd certainly call this something like Sega All-Stars Battle Royale, and they would have the remixed music and be a little bit more precise on where its locations are taken from. And it's a shame because even
You know, I
Virtua
would
Fighter
play
doesn't
that in Sega
exist.
Smash Brothers.
I just want anything Virtua Fighter again, like literally anything, especially on PC.
Well, I mean, you know, maybe you'll see something like that eventually.
Yeah, eventually, like a decade from now.
Well,
when, like 360 emulation is
you know,
feasible, so yeah,
um,
Final Showdown.
So, I would like to say something. I think this is like the first time we've seen Sonic Heroes in full 3D, and I think it looks pretty good. I like all the facial expressions they gave everybody.
well, this was before Sonic R, and Sonic
Yes.
R was the first Sonic 3D game, I guess,
Like
with
for,
Sonic locations.
Yeah, for like home port at least. Like this was again only arcades for the longest time at least.
Yes. I do like the way that they've done the 3D environments because they still have the classic Sonic, like, 16-bit look,
Yes.
but they've tried to
Right.
convert it to 3D.
Simple
rather than,
textures that work
you
pretty
know,
well.
obviously,
Like you can almost imagine
Yeah,
Sonic going
unlike
like really, really
Adventures.
fast and defying gravity, trying to run along some of those curved walls on the side there. And I do like
well,
the effect they
I'm
have
glad
going
we're stuck
with
on
the
this
water.
stage. Because, yeah, as I remember with this particular stage, this is actually kind of a visual powerhouse as far as games go. You've got the moving boat, which is following a track all the way along. You've got all the water, which is, like, different to everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here visually.
And, you know,
Could the Saturn actually pull this off, I wonder?
it would have had to have truncated the experience slightly. There's no doubt about it.
I'm sure the textures wouldn't have been as good.
Also-
Probably the water effect would have looked a little bit boring in comparison.
We're gonna have moved away, but there's a really nice little flag detail with it spinning around there, like whipping back and forth in the wind. Oh good, this is gonna take forever.
Now, several series have been
Yep.
rather inconsistent with how many Chaos Emeralds there are, but this one has 8. And it's the only game in anything related to Sonic to specifically have that number. Like, because the only other one with more is Sonic Spinball. It has like 12 or 14 or something. Or just like
I
a
always
ton.
assume the ones in Spinball were like weird fake emeralds or something, because they're all the same color.
Right, sort of like how the Chaos Rings and Chaotix were their own thing. Robotnik's creating his own clones of those. So how does he have these emeralds anyway, you know?
Yeah.
I mean Spinball doesn't exactly explain itself very well. It's more of a thin excuse to put Sonic in an arcade machine, in a manner of speaking.
Well, the thing is, like, Spinball was, mostly made externally from,
right.
the major Sonic people.
Yeah,
I realized that a lot of...
That, it was kind of sort of based on Sadam, so who knows what's wrong there.
I'll put some acceptance, yeah.
Yeah, like that's one thing both of these games certainly have in common, is that they are very much done outside of what we'd sort of think of as the main teams working on Sonic. I mean, this even more so, because at least the people who worked at Sega Technical Institute were providing some assistance with the development of Sonic 2. And, obviously, a lot of the ideas in that game come from, thrown out concepts from Sonic 2 that they weren't able to put in the game.
Bob's done a pretty good job there, by the way, beating his own clone, because that can be very difficult in this game if you're not good at your character. But now you gotta fight Bean, who inexplicably, you'd think your own clone would be the second to last thing, but no, you fight your own clone, and then you have to fight another guy.
Actually, you play as Knuckles, you fight... The order you fight people in is always the same, so you fight Knuckles, you got a mirror match first.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting that each character has, like, as a result, very specific AI. So, and oddly, that Knuckles, one would assume one of the more brawling, experienced opponents would be less of a pushover. Because that's sort of Knuckles' like, big thing. He's the dude who fights with his fists. And yet he's just sort of there to get pushed around. Oh man!
So the last stage was Casino Night, and that was pretty clear. And this stage is what is this? Metropolis meets Oil Panic?
Yeah, This is very much Oil Ocean with the background there, and the main thing that says Metropolis is that it's a lot greener than Oil Ocean is. And, you've got a couple of corkscrews.
It's got the spinning screws.
Yeah.
Nuts, sorry. Yeah, I don't want to look like I don't know what nuts and screws are. Those are nuts. I like that this is called a dynamite plant. Like, what kind of a lunatic works and then fights with dynamite in a dynamite plant? You gotta stop this guy. It's like all these bombs going in the background, and there's this lunatic just detonating them.
Well, that's why we never saw Bean after this, I guess.
Also,
it has been XX days.
Spend a shield to do that sparkly thing, but I'm not 100% sure that actually does.
Right, I think it's like it just boosts your damage or something. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't do much, as far as I know. It's your shields are so valuable in this, it's very much not worth burning through your shields.
I love that throw.
It's a very good throw. We haven't really mentioned, but it's been very clear, this game has some really beautiful, like, squash and stretch to the, everything that goes on. Like, that's the first thing you notice when you boot this up, is that it really plays with the 3D models, compared to a lot of 3D fighting games at the time, which basically were very static with their models in a lot of ways. They might, for like a goof stretch, like make a head too big or a hand too big, but this game really makes it an art form.
Right. It does a really good job of leaning into the sort of things that make Sonic in that sense.
And I don't get why Sonic was on an airplane.
It's not even that he's just on an airplane, he's like on a B-52 bomber with like propellers or something. Like,
I think it's supposed to look a little bit like Wing Fortress, but it's still just one plane, whereas that was
he's
like
getting ready to like
mega airship. Yeah, this is more
He's gonna
like
bomb Tokyo. This fucker.
yeah, like you expect to hear the Afterburner theme in the background instead, especially because this is AM2.
I mean, I think they've taken like the background's kind of inspired by Afterburner, like that nice landscape, the clouds, every part of this is really makes you want a 3D Afterburner.
Shame
I mean,
that's
I do
been
like that
taken
about
off
fighting
Virtual
games
Console.
when they do that.
Or
Because
the
this game, I
download
think,
services.
evokes, with its backgrounds, like, it really evokes a bigger world than the game is, which is very nice, you know. Like, plenty of fighting games, 2D games usually do it better, like SNK are kind of super famous for their absolutely gorgeous 2D backgrounds.
So much detail,
But,
and so much
you know,
stuff
like,
going on too, yeah.
Like, with this one, you know, like, a lot of 3D fighting games were like, they kind of got lazy and were just like, hey, look, there's 3D in the background. Whereas this game really sells a world.
Look at, like, any Tekken level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
the
the
Tekken
32X
levels,
version of
they
Virtual
suffer.
Fighter. Which I like, but is
don't look at
not
that.
visually exciting.
No, it's, what is it, like flat planes, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it's all rather dull. It's just, you know, the single checkerboard background overlaid with, like, just a very simple sort of scrolling background. It's probably one of the better versions of the game to play because of all of the nice features it has, but otherwise, you know, like, visually, it's whatever. Pretty forgettable.
So, I mean, this is kind of completely unrelated to this game, other than the way that they've done this aeroplane reminds me of the low-poly indie aesthetic so much. Like, I've almost...
Like the kind of thing you'd see in a... What's the game called? Drive Shift?
Drift Stage.
oh,
I mean, I'm really
yeah.
feeling some Drift Stage with this plane.
Is that the one that's Outrun styled,
and,
or is that the one that's, like, virtual racing styled?
That's the Outrun style
Oh,
one.
okay, because I remember seeing a couple
Yeah.
months ago some virtual racing style stuff. And
The
it
virtual
looks
racing
like
one
this
doesn't
even
have
more.
many textures, I don't think.
Oh, that's true, yeah. This
Yeah,
is slightly more
um,
elaborate texture detail.
But... So I guess Bob's playing the Japanese version, then? It does...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh man, I love Tails' phallic, like, rocket ship.
The Star Fox!
And he only put one seed in it for some reason.
No, it was in...
I guess he wanted to be with all his friends. Oh, and here's Metal Sonic. Metal Sonic
So if you
sucks.
fight, if you can fight, like, without continuing or something, I think, as Sonic, you get to be Super Sonic here, at this point, if you played as him. So that's, like, the one big thing that,
Yes,
like,
only
makes him
as
different from
Sonic.
everyone else. Yeah, no one else gets to go Super, not even, like, Knuckles or Tails.
Who canonically could in some form at this point, but nope. Nope.
Nope. Not even with
This is
8
great
emeralds.
music, though. I really like the music to Metal Sonic's fight.
Basically, Metal Sonic is like Dural, because he basically has everyone's moves.
And he's also made of metal.
I mean... A great 3D representation of Metal Sonic in this one.
Oh yeah, like all of the characters
like,
look
absolutely
really
captures-
good. I honestly like the model of Sonic that they use in this game more than the one that they used in like Sonic 3D and Sonic R and everything like that.
Well, in a lot of ways, as I mentioned before, you know, this game really pushes the actual true Sonic aesthetic.
Yeah.
And just makes it 3D, and they do a phenomenal job of it.
Especially considering the technology
I mean,
at
there's
the time. Like, this looks really good for, like, 1995 3D. Like, that's the thing that surprises me. This is even pretty visually competitive with something like Sonic Adventure, which admittedly has, you know, 3 years later, maybe
How would
better.
this compare to Sonic Jam? That's actually a Sonic team developed game 3D.
Well, like I'm saying, I don't
Honestly,
really like the
I mean-
models in that one as much. Like the visual aesthetic is pretty good, but it doesn't wow me as much as like that one level with the boat did, for example. Despite, you know, all of the same sort of components showing up in both of them.
I mean, the main thing we're looking at here is this is Sega's Model 2, which is like their best 3D system at the time on the arcade, with pretty much, I think, inarguably their best developer at the time, especially for arcades.
Right.
Like, AM2 just were on top of the world for like a good decade or so as just one of the best Even when Sega went kind of like not very good in a lot of ways, AM2 was still going strong with the quality of their games.
Right, Virtua Fighter 5 was really good.
They've always just been a very strong developer.
I mean, when like your sort of closest thing to a throwaway game is something like Turbo Outrun, that's sort of a sign as to like how good of a developer, like as a group, you are.
So that's that beam there is one of Metal Sonic's unique attacks, and it's a son of a bitch.
Oh yeah.
It's more that rocket ram that really kills me.
If I remember, most of his attacks will break your shield.
Look, that's like a 2/3 of my health right there.
Yeah, I know.
Virtua Fighter games. I mean, I consider this a Virtua Fighter game in that sense. And that's always been part of my experience with that, is that every character, especially as the game goes on, get like a couple of really like health meter destroying super moves.
Well, the difference is this guy is has no real vulnerabilities. Metal Sonic is ridiculously hard to beat.
And a ranged attack like that is almost impossible to dodge. Especially if it's timed so perfectly that you get hit by it right as you're getting up.
Because, I mean, like, Bob's playing Knack, who's usually pretty strong, but because that beam just goes right through Knack's own weapons, he just gets destroyed.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of options for dealing with him.
I do want to say, off topic, I like Dr. Bonnie's Rage Cage.
Oh, yes. Or, excuse me, Dr. Robotonic's Rage Cage. Because they misspell it.
Does anyone want to take a crack at trying to decipher the impossible-to-read text there? Because you can't read it, but I want to know.
I'm pretty sure that doesn't say anything.
Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet.
I figure, like, Robotnik wouldn't use that. He would just write, like, Robotnik is the best
Oh,
over
yes.
and over and
I am
over.
great, I am genius, I am Eggman, like in Sonic Adventure 2. Nothing says I am genius like bad grammar.
He doesn't have time for good grammar.
Yeah.
He's busy.
I've got to destroy the world.
So, there's still 16 minutes of this left. Well, not all the 16 minutes, but...
If I haven't caught any of this, because I don't know if I want to. I mean, I might, but we'll see.
I was saying make a full montage
Well, this is the
see.
fun part, you know? This is why I don't play fighting games, is because of this sort of thing.
Well, this is never, you know, this is a credit thing. It wants your money.
Yes.
Like, that's the point
Yeah,
of
this is no longer
we don't
the
have to beat
game.
around the bush here.
Yeah, this is no longer the game being sort of competitive, like styled after what you'd get if you could play as a second player. You don't get Metal Sonic as a selectable character. This is the game like going full on SNK hateful boss in you.
Man, I mean, compare this to Knuckles. Knuckles didn't even really
Yeah.
fight back at all.
I'm gonna reiterate again, I like the music for this fight. I don't care if you hate it. I think it's a good track.
I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to be like, God, I'm so sick of these weird pitch-bendy orchestra hits, but I like them.
Well, I like it because it kind of sounds like an alarm sort of sound when it's playing,
yeah.
like a... Because it is, like, you're fighting on this base, it's like the last, you know, major fight, there's an alarm going, and then it suddenly breaks into a piano for some reason. Like, that's great. I do like the, in the background there, you've got, like, you just got a cube, like a wireframe cube there, like, with a little, like a bar next to it, like, oh no, the cube's gonna get to 100% before I can do anything.
I guess Eggman is playing Cube Wars in the background or something. Or whichever one that one Laserdisc game is.
And you've got like a targeting thing, which isn't targeting at anything, it's just kind of floating in space. I mean, this...
I will say this is probably less frustrating than the fights in Sonic Battle.
Oh man.
Sonic Battle, you
We're gonna have to talk about...
can build yourself to be like the ultimate cheeser, though.
Yes.
Which is a...
Right, that's how you
Yeah.
have to play it, is basically just...
Well, yeah, but the problem is you don't always play as Emerald in Sonic Battle. Sometimes you might be Cream, and then you're really gonna have a bad
yep.
time.
Yeah, as long
I
as
hope
you're
so. I
Tails,
can't
though, or
stand
you
that
have that
habit.
Tails attack where you just stay up in the air and swipe with your tail, you're pretty much unstoppable. And
I wish Sonic Battles was better, because that game was garbage.
it has such an interesting tech behind it. But yeah, the actual mechanics of fighting are just so crummy.
I'd like to cover it, but like 75% of it's gonna be cutscenes.
It's such...
Well,
because that game is so much.
It's such a
talking.
weird story, too, because it doesn't really connect to anything at all, except arguably Sonic Adventure or Sonic Advance 3, and even then you could easily have replaced the Emerald clone with just Metal Sonic, and it would be basically Sonic Heroes, but portable. It's just...
well, you know, it's like an excuse plot that ends up taking over most of the game.
Right. I will say, though, there is one good thing about the story in that game, which is that Emerald, at one point, after he's been hanging out with Sonic too much, says, "Your punch ain't got no juice, fool!" And that to me is almost worth the game right there. Like, nothing else matters. Any game that has
and then
that dialogue.
Wade Hickston comes in and he just slaps him in the face, you know.
Also, I've been on this fight so long, the music just kind of gave up for a bit.
Well, you know, it's gotta, you know, reload the music. It's rewinding the cassette. I mean, there were arcade games that had cassettes for their music. I can't tell you which one, but there was at least one.
Probably...
Journey did, the Journey game.
Supposedly
Thank
Data
you.
East released their games on
Journey
cassettes, but I think that's a slightly different sort of thing. Or at least their early games. Like, that was what they did, was they manufactured cassettes for arcades, remember? If you don't know what we're talking
Didn't that
about,
take
go
like
watch our
5 or
Chelnov
10
video.
minutes to load the computer up?
Probably.
Chelnov was not on cassette, though, I think.
No, it wasn't, but we mentioned that that's sort of how Data East got their name. And, you know, any reason to promote ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you know, people should be watching more of it. They probably are. We're gonna run out of things to talk about as Bob gets repeatedly shit-kicked by Metal
Well,
Sonic.
this is why I want to make a montage out of this. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm having fun watching this, you know? But then again, I'd lighten the suffering of others, so...
I'm sure you screamed out loud when you were playing this just then, when you were like one hit away from victory there.
Man,
like
yeah.
one hit.
You know, I could probably add in some more yelling into this. Boss Rage videos are pretty big now. People dig those.
Oh, I just realized
like,
that this stage
this
was
is
called
fine.
Death Egg's Eye, which is sort of funny to me, because aren't there 2 of them?
Right. Well, I mean, maybe it's Robotnik's one eye.
Oh, yes. Our precious left eye will never fall into the hands of another.
Well, you know, there's lots of, you know, maybe they're referencing, Richard Williams' famous, messed up comic, The Thief and the Cobbler.
I was going with Bayonetta, but that works too.
Bayonetta is technically a Sega property.
Yes.
So, you know.
And the final battle to that one took place in space as well.
It can only be deliberate. That's the only conclusion. So the characters lose rings in this. I'm sure everyone has noticed. It's a nice touch, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yes,
There's no gameplay.
It's basically the equivalent of blood, which you can't really do
Yeah.
in Sonic game.
It's a...
Unless you're playing Shadow the Hedgehog, and don't play Shadow the Hedgehog.
You should play Shadow the Hedgehog. That's not a bad game. It gets a bad rep, but it's not a bad game.
It's... As long as you're not doing the weird sort of pixel hunty, kill all 300 enemies in a single level to get the good route or whatever. Ooh, no. Oh, that's bad. No barrier.
Yep. He's burnt all his barriers. He's not going to be able to survive a second round.
Yeah, the Metal Sonic is just too strong.
I will say, like, that's what you really need to do, and Metal Sonic's one of those boss fights where this happens, you kind of need him to not use certain attacks. That's the unfortunate element here.
Right, either that or you have to be, like,
if he
incredibly
uses,
good at dodging.
Because, yeah, if he spams his, like, most powerful attacks and just shreds your shield, you can't do anything about it.
And, you know, like,
I
several
think
of these
you might be able to
attacks are...
sidestep that spinning attack.
I can promise he wouldn't be nearly as bad if it weren't for his rocket charge.
Yeah, like the...
That's like his
Yeah,
worst move.
I mean, not only is it really fast and hard to read before it happens, like, getting the timing right for that, it just does so much damage and knocks you down, and then he'll do, like, the Tails-style move that he has.
I'm trying to remember this game as a sidestep. It probably
Probably if you do, like, up or down while
two
guarding.
buttons at once. Yeah, I think there's a combination to do it. I don't know if it lets you dodge that. I do know there's a shortcut to jump as well, isn't there, if you press a certain combination? Or is that a ground stomp? I'm sorry, it's been a long time since I've personally played this.
Ground Stomp is up and punch.
Oh.
Right. But, you know, they get stars around their heads when they're knocked out. That's, again, a nice touch.
At this point, we're figuring out like his running, shooting thing is like one of his better moves.
Right, if they don't block it, it's a very, the move has very few weaknesses. It's got a bit of a long cooldown, but, it's quite useful. It's anti-air, and, it's got range.
Yeah, like, if there's anything here that sort of... Like, that's why you can't really fight with Knack at close range.
I'm not quite sure if you haven't realized it, or if you've tried it. Throws always break shields, so I'm not sure if you're just not into throwing characters.
I think the problem is he manages to throw me first whenever I try.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
But yes, throws break shields, which I should mention, because we haven't mentioned that particular intricacy. If they're blocking and you try and throw them, you go straight through their shield. Which is probably the main way that Knack will break shields, if they're getting close and they're still blocking.
We got like 7 minutes, so I don't think I'll be getting my ass kicked for much longer.
Well, this is the hottest fight in the game.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt this is the hottest fight. And
Like
obviously I guess canonically you're supposed to fight him as Supersonic, which I think trivializes this fight. I think you can easily take him as Supersonic.
Yeah, I don't... does
That's
Supersonic
actually
even, like,
almost
take
as hard
damage
to
or
do
something?
as actually beating him.
Like,
Say
does
again?
Supersonic even actually
Does
take
Supersonic
damage or
take
not?
damage?
Yeah. Like what makes Supersonic different? Do either of you know?
I have not managed to get him, because I think you need to get to this point
Yeah,
to
that's
continue.
true.
Yes, you need to get
Pretty
here
tough.
without continuing as Sonic, and Sonic's not the best character in the game. He's not the worst, but he's not the best.
Yeah, he's pretty miserable.
Is this game the tier list, I wonder?
I mean, yes, as all games have tier lists, but I wouldn't know it. I don't think it's ever been played competitively, like, outside of maybe an ironic competition.
Come on, EVO 2017, this year's going to be the year.
I mean, what would happen if, like, you know, tens of thousands of people said, we want to see Sonic the Fighters? Like...
Well, I mean, if you can do Pokken Tournament,
At
I mean...
Smash Brothers Melee for another year, jeez. Like, how
Well,
old
they did
is that
Pokken
game?
Tournament because, what was it? Was that produced by Namco? Sorry, was it Capcom?
Namco
Yeah.
made that one, or they developed it anyway.
Right, so, you know, it's Namco were like, hey, put it in your tournament, we'll give you $1 billion. So yeah, they did that, you know. If you gave them $1 million to put Sonic the Fighters in, I'm sure they'd do it.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
need to, you know, we'll start up a Kickstarter, Sonic the Fighters 2017, and, we'll see where we go from there. You know, reward tiers include, more Sonic the Fighters videos, personal tuition on playing Sonic the Fighters, and remixes of Sonic the Fighters music. And all of this could be yours for just $200 US.
I think we're planning on like custom arcade controller USB sort of thing designed for when you want to play your copy of Sonic the Fighters, right?
I feel like Sonic the Fighters should have like a Bishi Bashi style controller, like giant buttons that you just hammer.
I think you could work with a Genesis controller.
It really is a 3-button game, yeah.
I would not be remotely surprised if that was a conscious decision as well, to make sure that it could be ported to the Saturn easily.
Which is sort of funny, because then they never did.
Like, this game is free money. People love 3D fighting games. People love Sonic.
And it was
and
95.
People who bought
yeah.
the Saturn loved fighting games. Like, there was so many, like, people were like, I love fighting games. The Saturn's great for, like, Sega fighting games.
Even Bernie Stoller couldn't say no because
fighting games.
It's 3D.
Yeah, I mean, they made exceptions for Sonic games anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if it had Sonic in the title, they'd release it, even if it was a 2D platformer. They would have done it.
Like, 2 of the Sonic
games
like... on the Saturn were Sonic Jam, which was your compilation with a little bit of extra 3D stuff, and Sonic 3D Blast, which was mostly just pre-rendered stuff anyway.
This game is just like literally everything Sega was in the mid-90s.
Yep.
Yeah, the fact that it's got such a limited release is crazy, considering its quality for 95.
Like, even more so than the other Sonic arcade game, you know, the one we did with Mighty and Ray. You know, this could have gone everywhere. Like, this is... People love this stuff. They would have eaten it up like candy. Like me with red vines.
Oh, finally.
Hooray!
Wow, like, you know, like, I could feel the tension in the air there, where you were like, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up!
And now you have like 30 seconds to defeat Robotnik.
What will happen next now, I wonder?
Not
You
even
say
like
30 seconds, but I think you get 20 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Oh, you
says
get
15,
15 seconds.
really.
So this might be a bit familiar.
That's generous.
Yep.
I mean, this fight, you basically need to not get hit. That's the,
Oh,
Not
nice!
this time, jerkbag!
Yeah, like we're saying, Metal Sonic is absolutely the final boss, and then this is just an extra thing.
Even though it's a completely unique model with, I believe, completely unique moves, you only fight him for like 3 seconds. Okay, 15. That was the worst explosion ever, AM2. I know you didn't think anyone would physically finish your game, but still. So,
And that's your ending, because AM2 is bad at endings.
so I mean, canonically, does this game kill Robotnik? Because I'm pretty sure he was just in space and exploded.
Robotnik dies in like every game.
Do I need to make
No,
another
he gets
Taps
away in
remix?
Sonic 1. Rip Eggman. What I like about this game's Casino Night, which thankfully has just shown up there, it actually looks like the Sonic R one as well as the classic one. It's kind of like a mix of the two, which is really cool. I mean, you know, what else is there to say about Sonic the Fighters? It's a pretty good game. It could be better, but I don't really know how.
It's a bit simplistic, doesn't have much depth, but...
Yeah, it doesn't have much. Hey, he's
Oh, he's
alive. You son of a bitch. I like how Metal Sonic is alive too. Just like he doesn't even have to get rebuilt. He's still alive as well.
Yeah.
I would love this letter font.
You
This
think
is
you can
gorgeous
continue
lettering.
against me? Well, I can continue against you!
Thank you for watching. See you soon.
Listen and understand. Metal Sonic is in this game. He can't be blocked against. He can't be countered. He doesn't feel fairness or restraint or good game design. And he absolutely will not stop. Ever. until you are out of credits.
Is there a mechanic in town?